Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App, make sure you contribute to the PayPal, make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Dennis Berlin. I'm not a lawyer, but my daddy is.
Yeah, if you've been hurt in a car accident, call my daddy.
No need to scream and yell like a little kid.
Yeah, no yelling.
My daddy will fight for your rights.
Yeah, fight for your rights.
If you've been involved in a car accident, call my daddy, returning Dennis Berlin.
Hello, I'm attorney Dennis Berlin. If you've been injured in a car wreck, call me at 713-229-0770.
Call my daddy, daddy.
Hi, my name is Stephanie, and these are my two adorable and handsome sons. And that is my ex-husband, attorney Dennis Sperling. He practices personal injury law and will be more than happy to help you with claims arising from automobile accidents. He doesn't get paid unless you get paid. And as we first wives know, the more our ex-husbands get paid, the more we get paid. So let me help him help you. Call Mr. Sperling at 713-229-0770.
Call my daddy.
The only time black men are allowed to speak is when it benefits others. So hey, this is your opportunity to speak. I want to hear from you. And if you want to make this voice louder and clearer, then what you need to do is contribute to the Cash App, the PayPal, and the Super Chat. I appreciate you. What's up, you guys? This is Dennis Sperling, and I am back here today, and I want to go ahead and continue with my series. As you guys know, I really believe that history and learning history, specifically learning Black history, African history, the history of our people, come here, you, come down here. I got somebody for you. Come here. I'm sorry, I mean body you, sir. Come around this side. You're too big to be on the small side. This is my son right here. Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
All right, so Daddy is having a series, and you see what it says right there? Read that. What does it say?
Celebrating African warrior culture, ladies first.
All right, so what does that mean?
They're going to do African lady culture.
That's what it says.
African lady warrior.
That's not what I said, man. Don't you go to the smart high schools, the smart high school students?
You put ladies
Pay
first.
all that extra money for tutoring.
You put ladies first, so I think
through the cost, $200 an hour. What it says, celebrating African warrior culture, sir.
Yeah.
Ladies first. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the reason I brought you, show them your little shirt. Show them your little shirt that Daddy got. Put what is that? What is that called? Krav Maga. Now what is that, sir? What is that?
It's Arabian fighting martial arts.
Arabian.
I mean Iranian.
Iranian. Yeah, that's right.
Middle Eastern.
Well, no, it's not Iranian. It's Israeli. Israeli. Right. They use it. Yeah. Basically, they have every finishing move from the vast majority of all the martial arts. In other words, they get straight to it and kill you. All right. Yeah. So tell them your name so they'll know who you are. All right. And what areas of martial arts do you specialize in, sir? Go ahead.
Muay Thai.
Do it one at a time. Tell them how long you've been doing it and what you do.
I've been doing Muay Thai for 2 years, and I've been doing Kung Fu for 7 years, and I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu for 5 years. I've been doing Shotokan for 6 years, and I've been doing Krav Maga for 1 year.
All right, tell us about your accomplishments, like your belts and stuff like that. That's what they want, because people don't understand 6 years, 7 years. You can be doing for 7 years like Daddy. Daddy been jogging for 7 years. Daddy ain't lost no weight. So what would you say you've been doing? Tell them what your belt ranks are or whatever. Go ahead.
In Kung Fu, I have a first-degree black belt.
And so you got a basic black belt and the first degree black belt. So you basically your second belt in. All right, what else you got?
In Shotokan, I have.
I need somebody more spunky. Come over here, sir. Sir, come on over here. Come on, get some of this. Come on over here and get some of this.
And
go ahead, keep talking.
In Jiu-Jitsu, I have a grand black belt. You
have a grand black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, a gray and black belt. Okay. All right, we need somebody a little smaller and more excited. Come on, tell him why he's so boring. You've been washing dishes. Daddy had you washing dishes too. Praise God. Now, why do you guys think Daddy, what does Daddy emphasize with you guys? Because we're talking about warrior culture. Okay, what do you think is the most important thing about having a warrior mindset?
You need to believe in yourself.
And what else?
Not letting other people be. Not letting other people run all over.
Y'all got to get your little pecan-looking faces up in here. Come on in, look at these two little pecan pies, looking happy and everything. So tell them why it's important. Tell them why learning to be a warrior. Is there a difference between learning to fight and learning to be a warrior?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Roman, you can go first. What do you think the difference is between being a warrior and learning to fight?
Being a warrior, you're a lot more experienced. And you know how to do a lot more stuff with weapons.
And do you think, Dennis, learning to fight, you can learn to fight, but I believe being a warrior is a lifestyle, right? It's something you do ongoing. So anybody can learn how to throw a punch, but learn to be a warrior. So you understand when I say we're celebrating African warrior culture?
Yes.
All right. Do you know how you can have like a culture of, I don't know, you can have a culture of people who eat potatoes and French fries every day. That's their culture. And then, but you guys, you practice a warrior culture. On average, how many days? Tell us what your average day a week is, basically, normally. Back when Daddy was taking you every day.
On Monday, we go to Kung Fu.
And how long does that last?
An hour.
And then what do you do after?
And then on Tuesday, we go to Jiu-Jitsu.
How long does that last?
An hour.
All right. And then what do you do after that?
In Muay Thai, on Wednesday, we do Muay Thai. And then on Thursday, we do Kung Fu and Muay Thai. And then on...
No, slow down for the fat people. On what day do you do what and what? Go ahead.
On Thursday.
On Thursday in the evening from about 5:30 to 6:30, you do what? Kung Fu.
Kung Fu.
And then after that, I take you across town to another place where you do what?
Muay Thai.
So that's a 2-hour workout, basically with a 30-minute break in between, right?
Yeah.
And they're basically two different styles of martial arts, right?
Yeah.
And so what do you do on Fridays?
And then on Friday.
Let Roman go. Go ahead, Roman. Tell her.
We go to Krav Maga,
Uh-huh.
and that's 1 hour. And then we drive down to...
Who drive? You drive?
No, Daddy drives.
Daddy drive. That's
And then you drive us down to Jiu-Jitsu, and we do Jiu-Jitsu with the adults.
Okay, right. And then on Saturday, what do you do?
Saturday, we go to Sensei, and then...
What does Sensei teach you?
Shotokan, and it's 1 hour. And then we go to Black Karate.
Well, before you go that, what do you do after you go to... What do you do after you leave fencing? We rush over
Oh, yeah.
What do we do?
Shotokan, then fencing.
Fencing. Now, what is fencing? This is new. What is this thing? Stab class. Yeah.
It's the you know how the musketeers use
The musketeers, right.
the thin swords.
You like fencing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it. You like fencing? Yeah. All right. So that's about an hour. And then what do we do after that?
Then we go to Kung Fu. And
that's Saturday.
Yeah, and then we go home, and then me and Dennis lift weights.
You and Daddy don't lift no weights.
Sometimes you.
Daddy lift weights. And what do you do on Sunday?
On Sunday.
What do we do? What do we do on Sunday?
On Sunday we go we lift weights and then we
No,
go to
no, first we go
You go to jujitsu and free roll.
Yes.
So every day of the week, you guys are practicing some sort of martial arts, right? Or
Yeah.
lifting weights. And we eat good too. Sometimes daddy gets you dressed up real fancy and we go out to eat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you're developing a warrior lifestyle?
Yeah.
Do you think daddy
Yeah.
is infusing in you a warrior mentality along with, of course, all those great people that help teach you guys?
Yeah.
You understand why?
Yeah.
Why?
So we can make it home at night,
Yeah.
like you said.
Well, yeah. So you definitely want to make it. Can you enslave a warrior?
No.
What happens if you try to enslave a warrior?
They'll fight back.
Are warriors willing to fight and die?
Yes.
Do they understand that life and death are all one? They get it, but they know to fight for their lives, right?
Yeah.
But they're willing to do what? To protect their lives and the ones they love.
Die.
They're willing to fight back. Yeah. And so that's part of the warrior mentality. And so what I'm going to teach these folks today, or really they know, a lot of these people know, we're going to talk about celebrating the African warrior culture. And we're going to start with these great warrior queens. Y'all done fought some girls with strong. You met the girl in jiu-jitsu. She got you. I got the footage. I ain't gonna play. I ain't gonna shame myself. I got a little video footage of Dennis when he first started jiu-jitsu. He fought the professors. He fought the professor's daughter, the chief professor, his daughter. He fought her. She had you in the headlock, son. That's okay. That's okay. I love you. But that girl gave you the blues. Roman, you fought some strong girls before?
Adult woman.
You fought some adult. Are the women hard? Did they cut you a break? Did the women cut? Oh, the women are mean and hard on y'all, ain't they? Yeah. And so what does that teach you about women? Do you underestimate a woman's fighting ability just because she's a girl?
No.
You know that they can fight hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know that some of the most powerful women warrior were African women.
Mm-hmm.
Names like Queen Nugaymath. She led a platoon of Moorish female warriors with bow and arrows. You guys shoot bow and arrows too.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? You guys stand still and shoot your bow and arrows, right?
Yeah.
How hard is it, do you think, to use a Turkish bow, which is what this is called?
What's a Turkish bow?
Well, you have to show you a picture of it. It's basically, it's a bow. It's like the ones you guys have. How hard do you think that would be on the back of a horseback ride? Because it's hard standing up straight,
Like
right?
they showed in the movie.
Yeah.
In the Justice League movie.
That's right. But either way, I appreciate you gentlemen and the time that you spent talking to these wonderful people to let them know that Daddy believes in this. And it's not just about me talking to you guys. I believe in what I'm teaching you guys and the same history and these same lessons and things that I teach my children. And I think it's very important that we begin to instill in our children a warrior culture, because it's not just about fighting and whatnot. It instills a certain toughness in them, and it makes them strong, especially our boy children. You want to know where all the strong men are.
Yeah.
You have to make them. You see.
Yeah.
So that's what you agree. Thank you. I appreciate you, sir. Okay, I don't need y'all no more. Okay, can y'all leave? Y'all crowd. First of all, it's too tight. You're too tight around my neck. Okay, no, with your underhooks. I know what you people do. Thank you. So y'all, that's what you need to do. Finish washing them dishes. Take a shower. That's what you smell like some musty children. But anyway, we are back again, and I wanted to make sure you guys, I love my children, so that's daddy's time. Y'all gotta forgive me. It's late at night where I am. But the bottom line is, I think it's important for us to learn history, and it's important for us to teach our children about warrior culture, about African warrior culture. And this is a great place to start. We love going to watch Marvel comics, and we like Wakanda forever. But the truth is, much of this started with our own people. And so because of that, I think we do ourselves a disservice by not learning our history. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start. Shout out to my man, Brian Tinsdale. Thank you so much. The first person we're going to talk about tonight is Queen Nzinga Nandi. The monarch of the Mbudu people was a resilient leader who fought against the Portuguese in their expanding slave trade in Central Africa. What I'm telling you is, these people didn't just stop at the west coast of Africa. Like it's just, people just assume, oh, they just stopped at the, no, they were all in the heart of Africa. Okay. This woman was basically, she, during the 16th century, the French and the English threatened the Portuguese near monopoly on the sources of slaves along the West African coast, forcing, okay, this is what's happening, right? See, a lot of people, oh, it's just the West Coast of Africa. You have a poor understanding of history if you think that the only place that they were pulling Africans from to take them to the New World was the West Coast of Africa. That's just not true. It's not supported by history. During the 16th century, the French and the English threatened the Portuguese near monopoly on the sources of slaves along the West African coast, forcing it to seek new areas for exploitation. By 1580, right, Columbus discovered the ocean blue in 1492. In less than 100 years, by 1580, they had already established a trading relationship with Alfonso I nearby in the nearby kingdom, Congo Kingdom. We heard of him. Remember Alfonso I? This was the gentleman that did what? He made a deal with the devil. You don't believe me? Go ahead and look back at the work that I did a few weeks ago, and you will see Alfonso. We learned a lot about King Alfonso. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go ahead and pull this map up so we can understand what we're talking about. Okay, because it's important that you guys know what's going on. If I could get a good map here, I'll try to blow this thing up a little bit so we can all enjoy it together. It's a little, it's big. Hold on a minute. Shout out to the trucker gang. I love the trucker gang. Shout out to all my mods. Appreciate you guys. So basically, family, this is, you know, we commonly refer to this as the West Coast of Africa. This is, man, I wish I had, this is Nigeria, Togo, Benin, Ghana. Now this is the Congo up in here, and this is Angola. All right. This is not the West Coast of Africa. This is the central portion of Africa. And this is what this is the area that we're referring to roughly. Okay. So, they had already established a trading relationship with King Alfonso I in nearby Congo Kingdom, and they turned to Angola south of Congo. So what did they do? They were already all up in here, and so they said, well, we need to go down here. They went to Angola, and Congo takes up, passes the central. This darn near on the east coast of Africa. If this is a central line, it's darn near on the east coast of Africa. This is where the Congo is right here. And so they said, well, we need to get some more of these Africans over there. I don't care where we get them from, just go and get them. So what happened? The Portuguese established a fort settlement at Luanda in 1617, encroaching on Mbundu land. In 1662, they invited King Nandi to attend a peace conference there to end the hostilities with Mbundu. Mbandi sent his sister Nzinga to represent him in a meeting with Portuguese Governor João Corral Sousa. Nzinga was aware of her diplomacy. Nzinga was aware of her diplomatically awkward position. She knew of events in the Congo which had led to the Portuguese domination of the nominally independent nation. She also recognized, however, that to refuse the trade with the Portuguese would remove a potential ally and the major source of guns for her own state. So remember, these Africans, they were selling, they had trade deals going with these European countries. They needed guns. They had to fight their adversaries. They had to fight other folks. They had to fight with it and keep things under control. And everybody else had guns, and there was no gun manufacturing plants there. So they needed guns. In the first series of meetings, Nzinga sought to establish her equality with the representative of the Portugal crown, noting that the only chair in the room belonged to the governor, Correa. She immediately motioned to one of her assistants, who fell on her hands and knees and served as the chair for Nzinga for the rest of the meeting. In other words, there's only one chair in the room, so she said, you get down on your hands and knees and I'm gonna sit on your back. Why did she do that? She noted that she had to establish that she was equal. She wasn't gonna be sitting on the floor, and this guy was up here sitting up in the seat. Despite the display, Nzinga made accommodations with the Portuguese. She converted to Christianity and adopted the name Dona Ana de Sousa. She was baptized in honor of the governor's wife, who also became her godmother. Shortly afterwards, Nzinga urged the reluctant Ngola Mbande to order the conversion of his people to Christianity. All right, in 1626, Nzinga became queen of Mbundu when her brother committed suicide in the face of rising Portuguese demands for slave concessions. These Europeans kept coming back and back. We need more, we need more. And, you know, it was just gotten to the point of so much pressure on this king, just downed himself, right? Nzinga, however, refused to allow them to control her nation. In 1627, after forming an alliance with former rival states, she led her army against the Portuguese, initiating a 30-year war against them. It's not that they were against slavery. They were against the amount of slaves that these people wanted. So they were definitely in the business of trading slaves. So when people say they fought against slavery, that's not an accurate statement. People say our African brothers fought. No, they fought to keep it within certain limits. They were actively trading blacks and whatnot and other Africans and their own people too, oftentimes, but they didn't want it to get so far out of line because they were beginning. We're 1627. We're going on 150 years later, and the country is beginning. They're noticeably seeing they're losing people left and right. You know, the country, the landscape is becoming empty. She exploited the European rivalry by forging an alliance with the Dutch, who had conquered Luanda in 1641. With her help, Nzinga defeated a Portuguese army in 1647. When the Dutch were in turn defeated by the Portuguese the following year and withdrew from Central Africa, Nzinga continued her struggle against the Portuguese. Now in her 60s, she still personally led her troops into battle. That is a warrior right there, from a warrior culture. She also orchestrated guerrilla attacks on the Portuguese, which would continue long after her death and inspire ultimately successful 20th century armed resistance against the Portuguese that resulted in an independent Angola in 1975. Despite repeated attempts by the Portuguese and their allies to capture or kill Queen Nzinga, she died peacefully in her 80s in December 17, 1663. Why don't we know anything about this system? Well, I don't know. Well, I have an idea, but what we're going to do is we're going to drive home the point. I want you guys to check this video out about Queen Nzinga. If you appreciate what I'm doing, hit the like button, hit the #1 button. Okay, family, don't, hit the #1, but hit the thumbs up button. If you like this type of stuff, hit the #1, but we can talk about all that other stuff, YouTube and who to sue who, and we can talk about, Sweetie, and Quavo, and name them, all of them. Next one's come up. But I think this is important. This is food for us right here. All right, this is food. You need to fill your mind with this. So hit the #1 button and make sure you hit the thumbs up button when you come in here. But let's go ahead and look at this video.
Of the world. Queen Nzinga of Ndongo and Mutamba. Nzinga was the queen regnant of the joint kingdoms of Ndongo and Mutamba in modern-day Angola. She stood up to the Portuguese colonialists and defended her people from enslavement. Her brilliance, pride, and perseverance forced the Portuguese to recognize her kingdom in modern-day Angola. She stood up to the Portuguese colonialists and defended. Nzinga was the daughter of Prince Colombo and his favorite concubine, Kingela Ka Nkombe. She was born during a difficult delivery. Her name, Nzinga, meaning to twist or to turn, was given to her because she emerged with the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck. This was thought to be a sign that the child would grow to be a powerful and proud person. A wise woman present at the birth predicted that the baby would grow to be a queen. When Nzinga was 10, her father ascended the throne and became Ngola, or king of Ndongo. Nzinga was a bright and engaging child and was favored by her father. As she was a girl, she was not seen as a potential heir or competitor for the throne like her brothers. So her father felt free to lavish attention on her. The princess was trained as a warrior to fight alongside her father and brothers. She was also
The princess was trained as a warrior to fight along her father and brother. How about that, right? So let's go ahead and continue to watch.
Taught how to read and write by Portuguese missionaries.
She was also taught
nearly
how to,
always by her.
Here's what I want you guys to understand. As I told you guys earlier, last week, the elite, the people over there who in Africa who were the kings and queens and nobles, they were formally educated. Many of them were sent to Portugal and other European countries where they learned, you know, all the fine arts and all that other stuff. As was said, she learned to read and write in Portuguese. And so you remember now, folks, when when they came to Angola in the 1600s, a lot of these Africans who left Angola were sent straight to Brazil. It makes sense. They already knew how to speak Portuguese. Many of them had Portuguese names. Many of them had European names. You see, so they knew who we were. So when they tell you stuff like, oh, you guys were swinging from trees, and that's just a flat out lie. Their own history tells them different. All right. And so you need to stop believing that. That's why it's important. They will psych you out before you even get in the game, family. So let's continue to listen.
Her father's side as he attended his many official duties, including legal councils, war councils, and important rituals. And she learned a great deal along the way. King Quilombo faced a very difficult situation.
I want you to listen to
began
that.
Taking over.
I want you to understand something. Her daddy took her with him to legal meetings, leadership meetings. So she was sitting there. Why? You see how important it is to have your children with you, especially as a dad. As a dad, when your children come along with you, you don't necessarily have to actively teach them. They can see how things should go. They see how you posture yourself, how you speak to people. And so this is why a father's role is important, because they learn. When a boy is only around his mom, when a girl is only around her mom, she learns the things that her mom has to teach her, but not necessarily the things that her father has to teach. So that's why it's very important for you to spend time with your children. Okay, this woman became what she didn't even know she was going to become a queen. But look what she ended up being, the savior of the country. Let's continue listening.
The coast of Southwest Africa in the 15th century, enslaving the local people and transporting them to Brazil to work on plantations there. But in recent years, they had exhausted the coastal population and turned their attention inland to find more people to subjugate and fill the endless current of slave ships bound for the Americas.
So by the early 1600s, they had taken so many slaves. They had taken so many black folks and enslaved them and took them to Brazil and South America that they had to go inland. They had to go deeper into the heart. They had to send. This is what happened, and it wasn't white folks going up in there. It was other Africans going in there, getting people, bringing them out. So keep that in mind. So this was when people say, "Oh, it was just the west coast of Africa thing," that's just incorrect. They were all up in all of this. They was dragging whoever they could get up out. Remember, you got rivers that flow from here all the way up through here, all the way around up. So you got current and ways you can get all up in there. You know, it wasn't like they just had to trek all the way through that. They can hop these rivers and do whatever they had to do to get them out of there. The captured Africans, that is. So let's continue to watch this. And shout out to everybody who's contributed to the super chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. That's the way you show your appreciation. Make sure you this Friday night, this late night history lesson, while you're driving down the street on your way to the club, you know, whatever you're doing. If you're on an open road trucker or whatever, make sure you contribute to the super chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. Shout out to Daryl Williams and INIR2.
In 1571, King Sebastian of Portugal ordered the conquest of the Ndongo people. The Imbangala, a group of fierce and dreaded nomadic warriors, rumored to be cannibalistic, had joined forces with the Portuguese against the Ndongo. They wanted to seize Ndongo land and were happy to sell their prisoners of war to the Europeans. Additionally, many of the Ndongo leaders were willing to sell their own countrymen into bondage. King Colombo tried.
Yeah, that was not uncommon. People sold their own countrymen. It wasn't necessarily they were selling warriors. Captures from other people, captured people from other tribes and nations. They were selling their own people. They were selling anybody they can get. They were trying to get what they could get. They wanted guns and all that other stuff that the Europeans were offering. They were doing everything. So Throw that out the window. There was no rules to this.
Diplomacy and warfare to defend his people, but more and more of them were being stolen away. In 1617, when Nzinga was 34, her father died, or perhaps was killed, and her brother Mbandi came to the throne. Mbandi had long been jealous of Nzinga's exalted position in their father's eyes. He was paranoid that her baby son might one day rise up against him, so he had the child murdered. He then had Nzinga and her sisters forcibly sterilized so that there would be no further sons to threaten his.
So this dude, the brother, after the daddy died, kills his nephew and then has his sister sterilized. That's ruthlessness right there. This is, so let's not always, and of course we have to give understanding of culture, but this is power. And see, it's that same power that caused us as Black men and Black women to sell each other into slavery. We can't miss these lessons. History is a lesson for all of us, has lessons for all of us. These are human stories, all right? We were not perfect. We were not this perfect group of people that just didn't participate in slavery. We participated. We were in it 100%. This cat, listen to what he did. This sounds like somebody who will make a deal with the Portuguese and the Dutch or whatever to sell our people to sell. He's unscrupulous and power hungry. Keep listening. This is King Nzinga's brother.
Power. Heartbroken, furious, and fearing for their lives, Nzinga and her husband fled Ndongo for the neighboring kingdom of Matomba. And from a safe distance, they watched as their homeland fell into chaos, famine, and terror under Mbandi's weak and inept rule. Mbandi attempted to negotiate with the Portuguese, but he was no match for the indomitable colonial powers and was driven from his court. In desperation, he begged his sister to help him by serving as his ambassador to the Portuguese.
So this clown, Mbandi, basically his situation, he was so weak, they just basically negotiated everything at the countryside, just went to hell in a handbasket. And so he had to go back and beg his sister, Nzinga, to help get him out of this trouble he was in.
She was an ideal choice for this mission as she spoke fluent Portuguese.
Remember, she was educated in Portuguese. She could read and write Portuguese. Okay, so remember that. This is important. This is an educated woman here.
The desire to help her people, she agreed, but demanded that her brother give her an official royal title, an entourage of attendants, and array her like a queen. While most Africans wore European-style clothing when meeting with the Portuguese, Nzinga dressed herself in the finest apparel of her people to display to them that her culture was not inferior. So
what did she do? When everybody else, remember, Alfonso I, right? He sold his soul. He made a deal with the devil. We learned about him a couple of weeks ago. This sister came in, this African queen, this woman who is from where many of us are from, where our people were taken. She went in there with her traditional African garb on, basically saying, I'm equal, and this is my land. And she didn't come and try to, she didn't let them co-opt her with her gift, with the gifts and the wardrobe. Let's continue looking.
Arrived in the port city of Luanda to meet the governor, all of the Portuguese men were sitting in chairs. However, there was no chair for Nzinga, only a mat on the floor on which she was expected to kneel in subordination. Noble Nzinga refused to lower herself and instead ordered one of her servants to get on all fours on the mat and act as her throne. She was a talented and fierce negotiator, and while face to face with the governor, they agreed terms of a peace treaty. The Portuguese would withdraw their troops from Ndonga, cease demanding tribute and raiding the land for human chattel, and recognize the kingdom's independent sovereignty. In return, Nzinga agreed to trade with the Portuguese, study Christianity, and be baptized. Nzinga remained in Luanda for 6 months, where she learned the Catholic faith and how to better understand the Portuguese culture. She was baptized and took the Christian name Dona Ana de Sousa in honor of the governor's wife, who stood as her godmother. Nzinga returned home in triumph and glory, and she publicly berated her brother for his weakness and failure as a leader.
Which means she cussed his butt clean out. That's what it means.
Mbandi had lost all support from the people, and in disgrace, he committed suicide by drinking poison. In 1625, Nzinga, now 41, took control of Ndongo. She was technically regent for her nephew, Kaza, the rightful male heir. Years earlier, Mbandi had entrusted his son to the care of the enemy warrior Imbangalas, and he had been living with them ever since. Nzinga met with the chief of the Imbangalas. She flattered and seduced him and agreed to marry him. But when the Imbangalas arrived for the wedding ceremony, Nzinga seized her nephew, stabbed him to death, and threw his body in the river.
You hear that? She set him up. Yeah, baby, we're gonna get married. It's gonna be all good. Come on over. She wanted to get her nephew back. This is a ruthless woman. This was not a weak woman. This was a ruthless, calculating woman, not just some. She was educated, she was ruthless, she was calculating. When we're celebrating warrior culture, it's not necessarily something you agree with. You see, aggression has a purpose. Aggression, hitting someone is one thing. Aggression means I have a purpose and a goal in mind. This is what I'm aggressive for. It's a beautiful thing what she did. She got to
declaring to all that she had finally avenged her own son's murder. Nzinga was now secure on the throne of Ndongo, but she still had detractors among the nobility who were opposed to a woman's right to rule. Nzinga thus began living as a man, a common practice among female rulers in Central and West Africa, used to maintain their power. She engaged in masculine pursuits and took multiple husbands, known as chibados.
So this is oftentimes, we talk about it was matriarchal. So this custom of, she was trying to garner the respect of the men. So what did she do? She started acting like a man. She took multiple husbands, like they would take multiple wives. She started doing stuff that men do, smoking pipes, bow and arrows, stuff like that. Let's continue to listen.
Ndongo, the chibados existed as a third sex. They dressed as women and were able to marry men or women without stigma. They were an honored group of shaman who served as spiritual arbiters in political and military decisions and performed burial rites.
Isn't that interesting? They married men and women. That's crazy, man. Keep going.
Nzinga's chibado husbands lived among her maids in waiting, but were forbidden to engage in sexual relationships with them. Europeans spread rumors that Nzinga's harem of husbands would fight to the death over who was allowed to spend the night with the queen. The peace Nzinga had negotiated with the Portuguese couldn't stand against the steamroller of imperialism and slavery. The Portuguese once again began to demand tribute, both monetary and human, from Ndongo. The queen sent messengers into neighboring lands, armed with words of freedom and resistance, and many people, unhappy living under the thumb of the Europeans, fled to Ndongo. When the Portuguese demanded Nzinga return the people they saw as their property, she replied that there were no slaves in her kingdom. The Portuguese now saw that they would not be able to intimidate.
So basically what she said, I want everybody to come out. We're going to have freedom. We're going to fight these people. And so the Portuguese said, you got to return those people back to their property. They're slaves. They needed them to be there. They needed them to work. They needed them all. But she said, no, there are no slaves in my land. Everybody's here free. And they were ready to fight. So beautiful, brilliant woman.
Intimidate this dignified warrior queen or bend her to their will. So they used her gender and the fact that she had given up the Christian practices they had imposed upon her in an attempt to delegitimize her rule and overthrow her.
So she basically learned Christianity and Catholicism and their language so she could understand them better. Not so that she could convert, but basically she was acting as a spy. She wanted to understand what drove these people, and you can understand a lot about a person by their religion. That's something that we're going to do here. We're going to basically, we're going to compare Christianity, Islam, and traditional African religions by going into the character of each one of their gods. We'll start with Oshun and some of the other gods that the Africans on the West Coast represented or as their deities. But let's continue watching. But she did that so she could learn about them. It was brilliant.
Nzinga was proud, but she was also cunning. She knew that she would not win in an all-out war with the Portuguese. So she fled with her supporters to the Matamba region, where she courted new allies and planned her next move. In this area, queens had ruled for centuries, and Nzinga's gender was far less of an obstacle. Nzinga continued to welcome escaped enslaved people and warriors from other tribes, and her army grew. Back in Ndongo, the Portuguese installed a puppet king, forced the people to convert to Christianity, outlawed their traditions, and enslaved and exported them at their whim. Meanwhile, another European power, the Dutch, moved onto the scene. They wanted to disrupt the Portuguese expansion in Africa and profit from the valuable trade in human bondage. The Dutch had already overtaken the neighboring area of the Congo. Nzinga looked at this powerful enemy of her enemies and sent her emissaries. She allied herself with the Dutch, and together they went to war with the Portuguese. Nzinga personally led her army into battle.
Now, this woman was 40-something years old at this time.
She was a skilled soldier as she had received martial and weaponry training from childhood. Nzinga and the Dutch overtook the Portuguese city of Luanda. African leaders throughout the region, including the puppet king of Ndongo, submitted to Nzinga's rule. The Portuguese now saw that they had to take Nzinga very seriously. They regrouped, brought in reinforcements from Brazil, increased their firepower, and overwhelmed Nzinga's army. They took her sister Mkumbu, called Lady Barbara, as a prisoner and forced Nzinga to retreat once more. The queen continued to fight the Portuguese for decades, primarily using guerrilla
30 years she fought them.
tactics against their much stronger army.
Now, guerrilla tactics is basically when you sneak and surprise them. You sneak up on them at night in their quarters and you cut their throats. You cut off their supply lines. You never do a head-up fight because they didn't have the firepower to deal with that. But these are the traditional ways in which a smaller, more deregulated or unregulated army, a group of people fight a larger, more industrialized army. So they use guerrilla tactics, which is something the Native Americans also did. Many other groups. It is what the Vietnamese did to the Americans and the French and everybody else who came to Vietnam. So let's continue.
Eventually, she resigned herself that this was a battle she could not win with military might. So she turned once more to her cunning and developed a political and economic plan to halt Portuguese expansion and make her joint kingdoms of Ndongo and Matamba a force the Europeans would have no choice but to respect. Her plan was twofold. First, she placed her military forces between the Portuguese and the lands they raided for people to enslave, cutting off the slave trade in the area. Next, she reached out directly to the Catholic missionaries, claiming she wanted to convert her kingdoms to Christianity. The missionaries were so enthralled by Queen Nzinga that many of them volunteered to act as her emissaries to the European leadership and even to the Pope. With the might of the church on Nzinga's side, the Portuguese governor had little choice but to open up peace negotiations, release her sister, and eventually recognize Queen Nzinga as the official ruler of Ndongo and Matamba. Now in her 70s and finally secure on her throne, Nzinga turned her focus on domestic matters and concentrated on rebuilding her people who had been devastated by decades of warfare. She resettled refugees of the slave trade in her lands and encouraged women to bear children. And she promoted trade by capitalizing on her kingdom's strategic position as the gateway between the coast and the Central African interior. She waged one more military campaign to rid her people of the continued threat of the Umangala warriors.
Those are the cannibals that stole her son and killed her son and whatnot earlier.
It decapitated the Umangala leader and brought his head to the Portuguese governor.
Woo!
In her final years, Nzinga maintained her hard-won peace with the Portuguese by building churches and hosting baptisms. The 75-year-old queen also entered into a monogamous Christian marriage with a handsome young warrior, 1/3 her age. But Nzinga also maintained the pride of her people and her place as their queen. She dressed fabulously, sporting the finest brocades, silks, velvets, and perfumes from Europe, while maintaining the style of her African people. And she always wore a royal crown when conducting official duties. Queen Nzinga died peacefully in her sleep in 1663 at the age of 80. She was briefly succeeded by her sister Munkumbu, who outlived her by 3 years. After that, the kingdom fell into civil war over.
So you see, the kingdom fell into civil war because that strength of her is gone. So let's
which male heir would reign next. Without Nzinga's strength and leadership, the kingdom she had dedicated her life to building and defending fell to the ever-expanding Portuguese slave trade and was incorporated into Portuguese Angola in 1671, 8 years after her death. But Nzinga did pave the way for women to lead. Queens ruled the Ndongo people for 80 of the 100 years following her death. Today, 36% of the Angolese legislature is made up of women, compared to 32% for the UK and 23% for the US. Women in Angola display remarkable social independence and are found in the country's army, police, government, and economic sectors. Queen Nzinga is revered for her political, martial, and diplomatic brilliance. She is held up as a symbol of freedom and resistance to oppression, and is celebrated as the mother of Angola.
All right.
If you enjoyed this video.
All right. I want to give a shout out to Lindsay Holiday, whoever that is that created this. Is dope. Appreciate it. So we learned a lot. You know, she didn't have any heirs. The heirs fought it out for who was going to be on top, you know, and that's unfortunate. But, you know, this is what happened. So moving right along. Hey, thank you, Damon J. He says, showing support. I purchased 3 volumes of your books on Kindle, and I highly recommend them. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. If you guys appreciate this, you appreciate this late night lesson, make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and PayPal. We're going to be moving right along. Let's go on. We're going to talk about, we talked about Queen Nzinga. Now we're going to move on and discuss another queen, and that is Queen Yaa Asantewaa, was an influential Ashanti queen at the beginning of the 20th century, who remains a powerful symbol today. Her birth date is contested. She generally is believed to be born between 1840 and 1860. The Ashanti Confederacy is present-day Ghana. All right, so where is present-day Ghana? Ghana is right there. Okay, that's present-day Ghana right there. So this woman that we're talking about now, she was a skilled farmer before ascending to the title of Queen Mother in the 1880s. This is recent history, right? This is after slavery ended in the United States. She was the Queen Mother. It is believed that she was chosen for the title due to the matrilineal aspect of the Ashanti culture, and that her elder brother, Nana Akwasi Afrane Okpase, who was a powerful ruler at the time, appointed her to the role. As Queen Mother, Asantewaa held many responsibilities, including being the gatekeeper of the Golden Stool. The Golden Stool is an emblem of the Ashanti kingdom, cultural system, and power. Since the Queen Mother is elected to be the mother of the reigning king, she presents candidates for when the occupant of the stool, the chiefdom, becomes vacant, in turn protecting the establishment of authority. Additionally, since the Queen Mother is the main advisor for the king, so basically the king was advised by this woman. This is, you know, and you know, it's odd, you know, when we talk about feminism, even in the African continent, the black man never oppressed the black woman. And much less here for the 500 years that we've been here in the United States, going on 500 in what is now, or what was that then, you know, the New World. The black man has never had control over black women. So when they say they've been oppressed by black women, they're just making up stuff. It's just not true. Even in the motherland and the places we came from, women had rights. You saw, you know, Queen Nzinga. Now you all the way up the coast to Queen Asantewaa, Queen Asantewaa. We never did that to our women. In addition, in other words, we've always been egalitarian. Additionally, since the Queen Mother is the main advisor for the king and thus is the second highest position within the empire, she fulfills the role of guardian of the Golden Stool. In 1896, the Ashanti people began to rebel against the British presence in their lands, and the British attempted to construct the Gold Coast colony to retaliate. To retaliate, the British captured and exiled Asantehene Prempeh I, king of the Ashanti, and Asantewaa's grandson Kofi Tene, who was also a powerful leader. The British removed the king and the other Ashanti leaders to this. I can't say that. I believe that word is pronounced Seychelles Islands. I can't say the word. I butchered it, I'm sure. In an effort to acquire the Golden Stool, while remaining leaders within the community, debated on how to best respond to the British threat, Asantewaa held her ground and rallied the troops. Her leadership and passion led to her role as commander-in-chief of the Ashanti Army. In turn, the Anglo-Ashanti Wars, fifth and final war against the British, became known as the Yaa Asantewaa War of Independence, or the War of the Golden Stool, which began on March 28, 1900. That conflict began when the British representatives, Senior Frederick Mitchell Hodgson, sat on the Golden Stool, right? He offended folks, right? Since the stool was not a throne, when Hodgson's act became known, Yaa Asantewaa led the rebellion, which resulted in the death of 1,000 British and Allied African soldiers and 2,000 Ashanti. Both totals were higher than the deaths from all previous wars between the Ashanti and the British combined. To inspire the leaders of her community, Asantewaa proclaimed that if the men of the kingdom would not defend the people, then the women would rise to the challenge. This both invigorated the men and challenged traditional gender roles. She led the rebellion and became an image of strength and resistance. Unfortunately, she was captured during and exiled to the Seychelles, where she died in 1921. Yaa Asantewaa remains a powerful reminder due to her impactful actions, both empowering her people and in the tactics against the British Army. In August 2000, to commemorate her influence, a museum was opened in her honor in Ejisu-Juaben District of Ghana. Similarly, there is an achievement award titled the Nana Akwasi Award, the NYA, which honors women who uphold the values and leadership of the Ashanti way. Let's look a little bit. Let's look at this a little bit about this story. There's a video here I'd like to share. If you appreciate what I'm doing, contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal.
If you, the men of Asante, will not go, then we will. I shall call upon my fellow women, and we will fight the white men. We will fight until the last of us falls on the battlefield.
How can a proud and brave people like the Asante sit back and look while the white man takes away their king and chief and humiliates them with the demand for the Golden Stool?
The War of the Golden Stool, also called the Yaa Asantewaa War, the Third Ashanti Expedition, or the Ashanti Uprising, was the last and seemingly major war between the British and the Asante in the then Gold Coast, which is now the modern-day Ghana. The war was triggered on March 25, 1900, by the colonial governor, Frederick Mitchell Hodgson, when he demanded to sit on the Golden Stool, a sacred symbol of the Asante strength and independence, past, present, and future. The Golden Stool had been the symbol of power in Ashanti Kingdom since the 17th century. According to traditional accounts, Okomfo Anokie, the high priest and one of the two founders of the Ashanti Confederacy, conjured the magnificent stool and invoked it to descend from the sky, where it floated onto the feet of the first Ashanti king, Ejisu-Juaben. The high priest then declared that the soul of the nation resided in the stool. The Ashantis maintained the Golden Stool as their most prized possession. Its entire surface is made with gold and hung with golden bells to warn the king of impending danger. Prior to war, their war chiefs consulted it. As time progressed, and as the Ashanti scored more victories over their rivals, turning their kingdom into an empire, the Golden Stool became even more revered. Then came the British. The Queen of England had sent Sir William Edward Maxwell to the Ashanti
All right, we had a little technical difficulty, but we'll go ahead and continue from here. If you guys can hear me, hit the number 1 button.
December of 1895.
Of the British, King Prempeh I was exiled to Seychelles, alongside other notable chiefs of the Ashanti Kingdom. Just before leaving, King Prempeh I advised his people not to put up more resistance after his exile. This was to try to negotiate with the British and save the lives of his people. Little did he know that an even bigger war was brewing. The British government was bent on totally subduing the Ashanti Kingdom. By this time, the region had been signed over to the British Protectorate, and Sir Frederick Hodgson had taken over as the governor of the region.
All right, for the purposes of the time, you guys, we've been at this for 1 hour and 15 minutes. You got the link to this. It's called The War of the Golden Stool. Make sure you check that out. I want to try to get through the rest of these queens, these warrior queens, because I think that's very important. So I want to go ahead and get through it. You guys, if this is something you like, we can always do this again. I can revisit it. I love talking about this. I think it's so very important. I do want to try to get some of you guys in here to have a conversation with me and talk about this subject. But I also want to try to get through with the rest of what we're doing here. So let's see if we can chop it up. And so we talked about King Yaa Asantewaa. You guys got that. So the next person I want to talk about is King Nugaymath. She was known as a Black Moorish warrior. This is a good story. Who led 300 Almoravid Amazons. Okay, remember the Almoravids was another word for Moors. 300 Almoravid Amazons who were part of the Ashanti Confederation of Black Berbers. She appears in the Primera Crónica General of Alfonso X el Sabio, king of the Castile in Leon, in 1252-84. They are negresses. They have their heads shaven, leaving only a top knot. They are on a pilgrimage, and they are armed with Turkish bows. According to the to the text, King Bukar ordered the black Moorish women to encamp nearest to the town with all her company. The Moorish woman was so shrewd, a master archer with the Turkish bow, that it was a wonder to behold. And for that reason, the history says the Moors called her in Arabic, Nugaymath Tariqa, which means star of the archers of Turkey. That's a bad girl, right? So let's we'll take a chance to kind of look at this a little bit. This is from a video by Tech Nubian. Let's see what he has to say. This is kind of like a rendition of it. That's what I call a walk-away three, right? Y'all seen that on the basketball court? Same skill set, baby. Let's check this one out. I think this might be a little bit better. This needs to be the 300 right here, the 300 revisited. So these black women were over here. They left Africa. They're over in Spain. They're Moors. It's 300, and they laid siege to a castle in Spain. Basically, they surrounded this castle and said, y'all come out with your hands up, or we coming in there. Y'all don't want this smoke. Why have we never heard about this woman? Why have we never heard about this platoon leader, Nugaymath? Huh? Bing. Now, how about that? So read a little bit more about her. I have some more information for her here in the description section. I also want to take the time to talk about Queen Mother Nandi. Some of you guys know Queen Mother Nandi from Shaka Zulu, but in my opinion, that is not a fully accurate story. This is Queen Mother Nandi. We will read a little bit about her first. Basically, her name was Nandi. She lived from 1760, October 10th to 1827. I'm sorry, from October 10th, 1827. She was the daughter of Beebe, a past chief of the Langini nation, and the mother of the famous Shaka, king of the Zulus. Queen Nandi Beebe was born in Melmoth, which is in a town in South Africa, situated in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, in 1760. Her father was Beebe chief from Ilangi and Malongo people when they had their king called Makale. All right, so let's read a little bit about her. Nandi was impregnated out of wedlock by Jama's son, Singanzawa, and Malongo people demanded he pay damages for his non-traditional act. All this out of birth wedlock, that wasn't happening back then. I don't care what folks start saying, oh yeah, this is not traditional African. Wasn't nobody having a bunch of loose babies around there that nobody claimed. So you don't let these lovely ladies here in the US of A try to put that off on our African cultures, because they was killing folks. Look, she personally demanded 55 herd of cattle as payment. That's a lot of cattle. Okay, so this is not something that they did. You get me pregnant out of wedlock, you're gonna pay out the wazoo, homie. And that's basically what happened. Down to her, and the herd was delivered to the Malongo people. The Jamas, the Singanzwa, agreed to pay damages demanded of the Malongo people. So all her people. Otherwise, you don't pay for this bastard baby that you made, we gonna go to war. And so what I want y'all to understand is do not let these lovely ladies blame these out of wedlock births on these our African traditions. Don't do our African brothers and sisters like that. And it had nothing to do with that. That's something we picked up over here in America from the white man and the culture that we have in the US of A. After Nandi gave birth to her son, Shaka, she initially spent some time with Nzinga crowd before her relationship with Nzinga deteriorated, forcing her to leave the corral. Nandi returned to her people, the Malongo of Elegini, and leaving Shaka behind. Shaka's life with Nzinga's crowd proved dangerous, and finally his uncle Mudli brought him to Nandi in Elangini. During the time, Nandi had to protect her son from famine, assassination attempts, enemies. However, Nandi's stay at Elangini proved dangerous as well, so she left with her son to live amongst the Kwabi people. There she met Ginyana, who she married and had a son. All right, so she got that stepdaddy thing popping. You know what I'm talking about? Had that little dude, he probably was in love with her from day one. Hey, man. So let's go ahead and look at a little bit of this story. If you appreciate this, let's continue to have this conversation, and y'all make sure y'all contribute to the super chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. But that's a warrior queen right there in itself. Let's listen. What you got to understand also is that Shaka was about a head taller than all the rest of the Zulu men. That was one thing that was noted about his physical stature. He was about a head, maybe a foot taller than all the rest of them. You've met South African guys, they was like 5'4", 5'5", something like that. Shaka was like 6 feet tall back in the day. You guys, nobody can hear the sound. If you can't hear the sound, let me know. I have to put that re-register that sound. Let's get this sound back popping. All right, let me get that up there real quick. Bam, there's the sound. It should come up. But what I was saying was Shaka was about a foot taller than all the rest of the men. That's why in his pictures even, he's depicted as being taller because he physically was an imposing figure. Let's continue.
Angeni. Nandi was impregnated out of wedlock by Senza Gakona. In 1789, Shaka was born after Nandi and Senza Gakona had engaged in the act of ukulobonga, sex without penetration, allowed to unmarried couples at the time.
All right, sex without penetration. Here's the thing. The Zulu tribes had they basically, if you look at some of those movies like Shaka Zulu and you look at Zulu Dawn, they would come together and they would back the young men on one side, the young women on the other side. They would come together and it would create a certain arousal, and both the men and the women would be aroused. Okay, so basically what happened was they were doing that, and apparently she got pregnant from that near, genital area touching. It was non-penetration, but she still got pregnant. This is how they would have, because to have a child out of wedlock was a bad thing. It could cause war, to get her honor back, to get a woman's honor back. And this is the way they kept down the birth. If you look at some of these, it was very strict. Shaka, under his rule, if you got somebody pregnant, you might get stabbed up. So what the young men would do is they would often deal with elderly, old women who had passed their prime, who had lost their husbands and couldn't have children anymore. That's how the young men would get their rocks off. You got to read some books about Shaka. Shaka really had an organized thing going on, but that's the non-penetrating sex in which she managed to get pregnant with Shaka from the young prince.
Needless to say, Nandi and Nzinga Gakona went beyond Ukulubunga, resulting in Nandi's pregnancy.
In other words,
when the
they started off doing that
announced
non-penetration sex, and then it got carried away. And that happens to a lot of us. Amen.
Nzinga Gakona and the Zulu tribe that Nandi was expecting a child, the Zulu replied through a senior relative of Nzinga Gakona that the girl was not pregnant, but rather suffering from a stomach ailment caused by the Isaka beetle, an intestinal beetle on which menstrual irregularities were usually blamed. A few months later, the Zulu prince was born. Nandi sarcastically named him Shaka to spite Nzinga Gakona, who reminded her that she had said earlier that she was not pregnant but suffering from Ishaka. Nandi intimately referred to Shaka as her Umlewana, little blazing fire. From that very moment, Nandi suffered great humiliation, rejection, and disparagement. Women of the Elangeni and praise poets and singers also didn't waste time in denigrating her. They called her names like the floater, whose thighs are never pressed together except at the sight of a man.
Oh, you hear that? Oh, they called her the. First of all, understand this, since they said when her people said she was pregnant, she told the prince. He said, no, you just suffering from that disease. It's called shakalaka or whatever. I couldn't say the name if I tried. And so she ended up naming Shaka, basically, which is a part of that disease that they said she had when her period came irregular. And then what else did they say? They said they called her the floater, the woman whose thighs are never closed together when a man is around. You hear the shame that these women put upon this other one. This is how they kept the birth rate down, in part and parcel. This is shame, something that we here in the Black community in America have lost. We pride ourselves on being savages. We pride ourselves on the women twerking in the middle of the street, doing all that stuff and doing it. They wasn't having that. So let's not blame this debauchery that we have going on over here in the United States, this toxic culture on what our African brothers and sisters are doing. That's just disrespectful. That is not what they were doing. Listening to how these women treated Queen Nandi, for having this out of wedlock, but not like she had 2 or 3, she had 1. And they treated her like she was, a Figaro of Floozy.
This was made with reference to her failing to practice Ukolubunga, resulting in the birth of an illegitimate son. Wrong as the slurs might have been, they were hurtful and insulting. Nandi never lost hope in life. She was resilient. She never succumbed to pressure, and she knew her worth. She instilled these values into her son, shaping him into one of the greatest leaders ever. During that time, Nandi had to protect her son from famine, assassination attempts, and enemies. Nandi moved her son to live amongst the Kwabe people. There, she met Gendiana, whom she married and had a son, Ngwandi. Nandi's stay amongst the Nkwabe people was not pleasant at all, and this forced her to leave Nkwabe to live amongst the Tetwa people. Nandi was warmly welcomed by these people. She found it a good place to raise her sons, Shaka and Ngwadi. Nandi always reminded her son that, despite his circumstances, he would one day be greatest king. She did her best, despite all the adversity she encountered along the way. There were times when Nandi was unable to put food on the table for Shaka, especially during the 1802 food shortage, a period in which people were not prepared to share their food because of its scarcity. She traveled long distances on foot to seek help in other areas, enabling her to provide for her children. Nandi also exercised a great deal of influence over affairs of the kingdom during King Shaka's reign. She, with other women surrounding Shaka, was put in charge of military crowds and given power to govern while Shaka was on campaign. It is said that Nandi was a
campaign means when he was at war, right?
Force for moderation in Shaka's life, suggesting various political compromises to him rather than encourage.
Can you guys hear? If you guys can hear, make sure you hit me up and let me know you can hear. I'm gonna go ahead and put the link in the chat room. Anybody have anything they want to share about these three queens? Has this been enlightening? Are we learning anything? Is this helpful? Maybe y'all want me to stop doing this. I can stop doing this. We can keep talking about pop issues and what like that. I enjoy doing it all, but I think that this is helpful. I think the fact that I use this platform, which gets so much traffic, to help spread Black history, African history, especially pre-slavery history, I think is good. So if you want to join the conversation, come in while we finish this up.
Encouraging violent action. Through Nandi standing beside Shaka, the kingdom grew by leaps and bounds over a short period of 12 years, despite a proclamation by the wives of Mungabi and many others who had said that Shaka would never rule and he would never be king. It is therefore understandable that King Shaka held women in high esteem because he understood their power and resilience.
So here's the thing, fellas. We often talk about the effect of being raised by single mothers. Clearly, Queen Nandi was a single mother, but she raised a king. So it's not that this woman with a goal and an objective couldn't do this. She did the job. It's not an absolute bar that it can't be done. But my thing is, of course, she had other men around and teaching them warrior training and stuff like that. But see, she was a central focus. So when you hear women say, oh, it's hard, look what this woman, she dealt with famine. She kept her son from getting assassinated. So this is a role model. But see, here's another thing you got to understand. She didn't run off and have 4 or 5 other kids afterwards. She got married and had another child with her second husband. So let's continue to listen.
He had deep respect for his mother. This was witnessed by the period known as Isililo Sik.
He had deep, Shaka Zulu, king of the Zulus, had deep respect for his mother because he earned it. His mother earned that respect. You see what I'm saying? Keep that in mind. Make sure y'all hit the like button if you appreciate what we're doing.
Nandi, or mourning of the death of Queen Nandi. The declaration of the longest mourning period, where those who showed insufficient grief were executed.
The thing is, if you didn't cry at her funeral, if you weren't mourning Lana, you got killed for not mourning the queen.
Because women are about more than merely giving birth and raising children, Nandi is not only important because she gave birth to a great leader, but because of her strong will, resilience, and her setting an example to millions of women not to settle for less. History has recorded several.
You guys appreciate this. You appreciate these history lessons. Make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. If you appreciate what I'm doing here, if you like this, if you like what's going on, you think this is important, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. In addition, please share. I'm sure that this will go on. These stories, as long as they're on YouTube, people will take a listen to them. They'll appreciate this. I think this is important work that we're doing here. You guys participating. The main thing you can do to help keep this going is what? Hit the share button, hit the like button. That's good for the algorithm, right? Ain't that right? Make comments. We want to put our history. This is important. This is our history. I don't see anything wrong with us talking about our history. People use YouTube and the internet for so many different things. This is what I'm using it for, and I'm enjoying it, and I think it's important. My man, just the man I want to see. We're gonna get my like in here, man. What do you think about this, man? Am I wasting people's time, brother? Let me know. I can be spending time with my kids, man. They like that. Never had time with us. You're always on the internet talking to people. What do you think? So, what are your thoughts about these three queens that we discussed today, brother?
It's great. It's something that's great. One of the main things that that I took from this, that even though these women were very aggressive and assertive in their actions were honorable because they were worrying about the community and their country and their land. And they were not using their power just for their own selfish reasons and their own selfish means, and just to gain wealth and dominance and just to have their own way, kind of like our lovely ladies here in America in the matriarchal communities in the United States. They don't care about the community. They just care about their own selfish desires. And I'm not bashing, I'm just going by observation. But these women cared about lineage. They cared about creating legacy. They cared about continuing on legacy. Queen Nzinga, she used cunning. She didn't use cunning just to get what she wants. She used cunning to gain her rightful heir of the throne, but also to give it back to the people. But that was amazing. Even in her old age, she brought peace back to the community, and she encouraged women to give birth to children to extend the legacy of the people.
What do you think about the fact that she lived to be in her 80s and took a husband that was 1/3 her age? Boy, what you think about that?
Oh, that showed that she was a powerful, sexy woman. You know what? The funny, can I say something?
Go ahead, brother.
You said, here's something, man. All right. I'll throw women out. You said Lena Horne, Felicia Rashad, Pam Grier, Dorothy Dandridge, Roxy Roker, Jane Kennedy, Diane Carroll. Now, all these women age gracefully, and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Queen Nzinga, they said, man, every time she came out, she looked fine. She looked fly, even though she had European perfume on, but she still had the decor of her regalness of her culture. That says a lot, man. You're talking about 100 years or later, and they said whenever she went out for any political or social thing, she always had a crown on. So you knew that this sister, she was looking fly. So why wouldn't she get a man that was a 10 younger than her, man?
Oh my God.
And it wasn't a power. I wouldn't think it was just a power thing. It was just like, damn, this sister's fly. I gotta get with this, man. So
there's definitely some social status. She probably had a big booty too, but anyway.
Hey,
look, so we went
it is what it is, brother.
You know what I mean? We talked about the Congo. Well, I'm sorry, we talked about Angola with Queen Nzinga. I think from there we went up and we talked about Yaa Asantewaa, which is where Ghana is, which is right up here. Then we talked about the sisters Nugaymath, who was the warrior. And then we went all the way down to South Africa. One thing I showed that all these women had in common, man, the culture came first.
Yes.
The dedication to the people, as you mentioned earlier. Interestingly enough, do you see how they shamed Queen Nandi for having that out of wedlock child? And I ask you that because oftentimes we say, well, this is our lovely ladies often say, well, that's what they was doing in Africa. It was like they were birthing baby. It was under control. You had to give up 50 cows for that. You see what I mean? You ain't gonna just popping no bastard babies up around here. Isn't that something, man?
Standard. Yeah, because it was a standard. It was a standard, and revering birth, and also men cherish their seeds and women cherish their wombs.
Yeah.
And that was something that, and even the birth of a child and bringing a child in, that was something that was sacred, and that's held as a higher standard. Where we lost that when we came over here, and like how you said, giving birth to a bastard baby. You know, oh, you ain't got no dad. Yeah, you ain't got no daddy. Who is your daddy? Who is your father? Who is your father? Who is the man that's covering your mother, covering you as a child? That's a standard.
And you see how the women tease him, and then you see how she named him Shaka basically after the disease that they said.
Yeah.
That's a baby mama name right there. That got to be one of the first baby mama names out there.
But you know what the one thing she did though?
Oh, what happened?
She raised him to say, okay, this is what people think, but you're going to be something else.
Yeah.
You're going to be king. I don't care whatever it is what they say, but this is what you going to do. And sure enough, he did.
So Malika, what does your name mean, Malika?
Oh, my angel.
All right, cool. So I think there's important in all of these names, and I think the most important thing is that we remember these names. And that's why I'm doing this series now. This is just a drop in the bucket. And I'm not a historian. I'm a lawyer, but one thing I think I'm good at is figuring out people and figuring out stories based on what is written in different accounts from different perspectives. And, I hope I'm contributing overall. I hope I'm not wasting anybody's time. And, I want to thank you and everybody else. It looks like my YouTube platform is about to take off, but guys like you and the ones, especially you guys who have the wrenches, you guys have been here since we got started. And, I do this to show this is the quiet time. Only you guys really can comment. So this is just like it was 7 or 8 months ago when it was just us, everybody else just an onlooker. Now, of course, people are always willing, they can always join, but I just want to personally thank you, Malika. Thank everybody else who's been here. I'm at the point now, I'm over 1 million views. I got 12,000 subscribers, right? And I just want to, again, take time to thank you guys, because it's you guys that kept me going, especially, I'm telling you, I hit some rough patches, 2 a day, these, but I think I'm good, and as you guys know, I take time away from my own sons and my own other things I'd like to do, my lady, just to be here, because I feel like this is important work, and I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can. I just thank you. I want to thank you too, man, personally, because it's great to have this camaraderie, because we don't get this as Black men. We don't get other intelligent Black men to speak to about things that can help us get through next week. You might be feeling down and bad, and then you'll think about what Queen Yaa Asantewaa said to the men. He said, if you will not fight, I will fight. The women will fight. And like they were motivated, you might be motivated. Even if it's not around you, this is what your ancestors did. I just think that's important, these motivational type stories, brother, especially seeing people that look like us. And that's why I put the images up to YouTube, because I think not just reading the story, but actually they can have an image burned in their minds, man.
Well, you know what you said, man? We could be talking about something trivial, but this is something this is something that feels good,
Yeah.
I mean, the other day you talked about 3 women that were in their wretchedness, but now you're talking about 3 women or 4 women that are in their regalness, which is, and this is something that you balance. But I gotta thank you too, brother, because iron sharpens iron. You help us to be prideful, to be, honored to be men. And like you said, this is a place where men can come in and can talk about almost anything.
Yeah.
And just nitpicking. And I respect that you say, even when you bring people on the platform, it's like, hey, we're not trying to downgrade or hurt anybody. Even if somebody that comes on your platform that might want to be argumentative, the lawyer hat goes on and you say, I got it, brothers, and you handle it. But here's the funny thing. I respect it because you handle it in a mature, sensible way without it going left, or without it becoming a platform where it becomes like a zoo. And it's understandable where it's like, okay, you know, Dennis got this. Like, you know, we don't have to like get all crazy. And even it's to the point where, you know, if somebody wants to say something, you handle it and, you know, like, okay, then you escort them off. And I thank you. God bless you. God bless your heart. Thank you very much. And then, you know, the sarcasm is there. But the thing is, it takes a strategic person, but also takes a person that has balance to handle that. And I respect you for that. And the thing is, you're showing control over your platform, that it's not about that. And you're not about trying to do that. Now, there are other people that have platforms, and I don't knock them, but it's a balance where, you know, this is a place where men can come. And I'm glad, like, how you kind of remind me when you come, okay, sister, you know, welcome to the Lions Den. You know, this is the man side. You know, you're in the man cave now. And you're not poking them, but you're letting them know, like, this is where we're at. And you're showing respect, but also you're letting them know this is a place for men, where it's very rare. But now, you know, YouTube is a platform where it's allowing a level of balance for men to come, and especially Black men and other men of other races to speak their mind and also have a free place to talk about issues and just where it feels good. And I applaud you and other brothers like you that do that and allow us that we can speak, but also we give love back to you.
Oh yeah,
and it's reciprocal too.
Yeah, man. You know, I can point. I was like, son, look, see this? I take the money and some of it I put in my son's college funds, and I spend time. We will go out to a nice meal so they can feel like they're benefiting. Otherwise, it's just me taking time away from my boys, and I only get them on the weekends.
Oh wow, man.
So, you know, the time that I spend is either from 1:30 to 3, but either before I pick them up, and that's why oftentimes I got to cut people short, run out of here and pick them up. And then after they come home, 8:30, they usually go to bed by 9. So I try to do the best. And sometimes you see me grab my cell phone because that's my office calling. And at the time when I started this, man, I had 13 cases in litigation all over the country. I had 4 in Louisiana. I had about 3 of them in Texas in state court, and the rest of them was in federal court. So it was rough. I got briefs I'm writing all time of night. But I do this, you know, I want to be consistent. I know I had a lot of naysayers early on saying, oh, he's not going to last, because, you know, but I take this very serious. Anything I do, and I hope you all appreciate my work ethic, you know, and use that as an example for how you can what they say, dig yourself out the mud, pull yourself, something like that.
Yeah. Get it out the mud.
Yeah, get it out the mud. And the way you get it out the mud is through hard work and dedication. And I hope I'm putting a good product out there. But, you know, aside from that, man, this has been great. We'll continue it. Today is Friday. So I think I got one scheduled for tomorrow. And thank you guys so much. I appreciate it, man. And thank you, Malika, for coming on in at this late night session. Again, this is Dennis Sperling. And as I always say at this time, man, I'm out.